The rain fell relentlessly, a steady drumbeat on the roof of my car as I pulled into the gravel driveway of an old, decrepit mansion nestled deep in the woods. My friend, Sarah, had been pestering me for weeks to join her on a trip to investigate the haunted Oakwood Manor, and I had finally caved. As I parked, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. The mansion loomed ahead, its dark silhouette shrouded in mist and mystery. Sarah's car was already there, parked at an odd angle that hinted at her hurried arrival. I grabbed my umbrella and made a dash for the mansion's imposing wooden doors. As I entered, I was greeted by the dim glow of candlelight. Sarah stood in the grand foyer, her face pale and anxious.
"Chris, you made it!"
she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I shook off my wet coat and umbrella, trying to appear nonchalant.
Of course, I did. You know I couldn't resist a good ghost story.
Sarah gave me a weak smile, but her eyes were filled with uncertainty.
You have no idea what we're getting into.
We had met in college, bonded over our shared love of horror stories and supernatural legends. Oakwood Manor had been on our radar for years, rumored to be one of the most haunted places in the region. Tonight, we were finally going to investigate the legends that surrounded it. The mansion was unsettlingly cozy, with antique furniture draped in dusty sheets and cobwebs hanging from every corner. The air was heavy with the scent of old wood and dampness. Candles and ornate holders cast flickering shadows that danced on the walls, creating an eerie ambience. As we settled into the living room, Sarah began to spread out old newspaper clippings and handwritten notes on a wooden coffee table. They chronicled the mansion's dark history, mysterious disappearances, strange occurrences, and the tragic story of a family that had lived here generations ago.
Listen to this.
Sarah said, her voice trembling as she read a passage from one of the notes.
They say that on stormy nights like this, the mansion comes alive with whispers from the past.
I chuckled nervously, trying to ease the tension in the room.
Come on, Sarah. It's just an old house with a spooky history. There's nothing to be afraid of.
But as the hours ticked by and the rain continued to pour outside, our confidence waned. Strange noises echoed through the mansion, a creaking floorboard, the soft patter of footsteps on the staircase, and an occasional murmur that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. We decided to explore the mansion, armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure. The grand hallway stretched out before us, lined with portraits of stern-looking ancestors who seemed to watch our every move. As we ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and a chilling breeze swept through the corridor.
I don't like this, Chris.
Sarah whispered, clutching my arm. I tried to sound reassuring.
It's just an old house. It's bound to be drafty.
We continued to explore, our flashlights casting eerie beams of light in the darkness. As we entered a room, the door slammed shut behind us with a deafening bang. Our hearts raced as we struggled to open it, but it was as if the door had been sealed shut by an unseen force. Panic set in as we realized we were trapped. The room was small and suffocating, its walls adorned with faded wallpaper and peeling paint. A single candle burned on a dusty table, casting long, ominous shadows that seemed to move of their own accord.
Chris, this isn't right.
Sarah said, her voice trembling.
We need to get out of here.
I nodded in agreement, but as we approached the door, we heard a sinister whisper, a voice that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once.
Stay.
We froze, our hearts pounding in our chests. The room seemed to close in around us, and the shadows grew darker, more menacing. Suddenly, the candle went out, plunging us into pitch-black darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight, but it refused to turn on. Panic set in as we realized we were trapped in complete darkness, with that haunting whisper still echoing in our ears.
Stay.
We clung to each other, our breathing ragged, as the room seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. The darkness pressed in on us, suffocating and oppressive. Just when I thought I couldn't take it any longer, the door flew open with a deafening crash. We stumbled out into the hallway, gasping for air. Our flashlights flickered to life, and the mansion seemed to have returned to its eerie, yet somehow less hostile, state. We wasted no time in making our way back to the living room, where we huddled together, trembling. The rain outside had intensified, the sound of it against the windows like a relentless drumbeat.
We need to leave.
Sarah said, her voice shaking. I nodded in agreement.
Agreed. This place is way too creepy, even for us.
But as we made our way to the front door, it refused to budge. It was as if the mansion itself was determined to keep us inside. Panic set in once again as we tried to force the door open, but it remained resolutely shut. We were trapped, and the mansion seemed to have a malevolent will of its own. Hours passed, and our attempts to escape were futile. The mansion seemed to taunt us, its walls shifting and warping, its corridors leading us in endless circles. The sinister whispers grew louder and more insistent, urging us to stay. As the night wore on, our sanity began to fray. Sarah and I argued, our fear and frustration getting the best of us. We accused each other of dragging us into this nightmare, of being foolish enough to believe in ghost stories. But then, in the darkest hours before dawn, we stumbled upon a hidden door in the mansion's labyrinthine corridors. It led us to a small, candlelit chamber where an old journal lay open on a dusty desk. The journal belonged to one of the mansion's former residents, a man named Samuel Hawthorne. His entries chronicled his descent into madness as he became obsessed with the whispers that plagued the mansion. He wrote of shadows that moved on their own, of voices that beckoned him to stay, and of a darkness that consumed him. We read his final entry, written in shaky handwriting, just before the journal abruptly ended.
I cannot escape. The mansion has taken me. Do not come here. Do not.
The journal abruptly cut off, and as we turned to leave, a haunting voice filled the chamber.
Stay with me.
We ran from the room, our hearts pounding, and finally, miraculously, the front door swung open, allowing us to escape the malevolent clutches of Oakwood Manor. As we stood outside, gasping for breath and drenched from the rain, the mansion seemed to shimmer and fade into the mist, as if it had never existed. It was a chilling reminder that some horrors are best left untouched, some mysteries best left unsolved. Sarah and I never spoke of that night again, but the memory of the sinister whispers and the oppressive darkness of Oakwood Manor haunted our dreams for years to come. We had ventured into the unknown, and it had nearly consumed us.